Hello, it's November 2, 2025. It's 8:17 in the morning. And I was just watching the initial episode of 911. I guess this is on Netflix. I guess it was my daughter who told me to check it out. And while I'm checking it out, it just occurred to me that there are some things, some lines in some movies that create an impact on me. Something that would draw lessons in life. One of which was coping. One line in 911 initial episode is that people try to cope with life. 911 is a number you dial when you have an emergency, right? So when you have an emergency, you need to cope. And the initial part of the series was that the narrator had an emergency, some sort of a personal emergency, trying to take care of her mom who has Alzheimer's disease. So, in general, people survive life. That's what life is all about. When you're born, you just have to survive. And that's another thing. But when you're in the stage of being able to do something independently, you have to cope. You have to cope with a lot of things like coping with your assignments, with your schoolwork if you're a student, coping with your duties and responsibilities at home and in the office, and then trying also to get more out of life, like having some sort of a recreational activity. In my case, I have a lot of time today because I have no work and I still have to finish my lessons in ethics and readings in Philippine history, and I still have the whole day and the next day. It should get me going because I love teaching, I love talking. The problem is I could not get myself going, and this has been going on throughout my life. I have a gift, I know, I have some passion, it goes on and off. But when I wake up, especially lately, I'm not having enough energy. Although without the medicine for hyperacidity, I'm still coping, I'm still having the energy. And most of the things that could get me going is talking to people, getting connected. It's not only getting connected, but every day, I guess it's not only me. People go through life doing the same routine. You go to school, you go to work, you do your job, and then when you get some rest and on a weekend, you do what you like, which is supposed to give you energy. Thing is, when we have the time, like right now, I have the time, I don't find the energy. And I have to get something to cope, borrowing from the 911 lines that struck me. Because when people cope, sometimes they could not do so and they have to depend on something to be able not only to cope, but to be able to stimulate oneself to get some energy. Some would use cigars or cigarettes, others alcohol, others drugs, some others sex, listening to music, going out, shopping. And it just occurred to me that life has been like that. But it doesn't give a certain kind of fulfillment because once the activity stops, the energy disappears. And I'm just beginning to realize there's a certain natural law that governs this kind of excitement. It is rare because it focuses on passion, on the on the heart. You know what I mean? Um, there are two types of nerves. I forgot which one, but I'm gonna review it. What we call the sympathetic and the sympathetic nerves. And anatomically, when one is under stress or emotion, or when the need arises, the other one shuts down and the other one turns on. It could be like an emergency thing, like 911. Your house is burning, so you get the energy to pull out the refrigerator, where you cannot do so on a normal state. You get wounded, your body naturally responds in a way that it directly goes naturally into the area where it needs to be. So what I'm saying is, our body has a natural ability to cope with all those emergencies. But many times, coping would be enhanced if you're not alone. So not only do you have this kind of security naturally within you, the natural anti or natural defense mechanisms of the body, but you also establish connections with people to be able to come up with a system where each of you can enhance the coping abilities. And that's where this set of values would come in. So a family would have its set of rules and regulations. And then if the same family would adhere to the norms of the society and the community where it belongs, then it goes up in the church and in the government. You have the four basic institutions: family, school, church, and the government. And you may include business. So what am I saying? While people, bottom line, would focus on keeping themselves economically alive, they would still have to cope with adjusting their set of values at home to be able to give up some of them and adjust to cope with the system outside. So, for example, if I need money for my family and I need to give up some of that money to be able to meet the basic services that I need provided by the government, I have to pay taxes. That's my duty. That's my responsibility. And it's not only legal, it could be moral, provided, of course, on the assumption that we can trust that those who we are giving our money to will provide the services that they're supposed to be doing. In the same manner, in the family, if I follow what is the norm in my family, everything goes well. But not all the norms in the family are the same. Some will focus on values like respect, more on honor and less on money. Some will focus on money greater than honor. Some will even put God and the Bible higher than everything. So with different families having different set of values or ethical principles, as you may call it, then we just need to survive. But the question is, how do we develop a system where it is good enough to be able to meet what is supposed to be universal values? And that's what I think this is going to. I speak of levels in my ethics, not only in my ethics classes, but also in all of my classes. In fact, I chanced upon a recording of mine back in 2003. Can you imagine? That's how many years ago? That's 22 years ago, more than 20 years ago. And practically, I still have the same basic thing. And what is that? That our life goes into naturally into different levels. And to highlight it, when you are born, you cannot prevent death. They are partners. But between birth and death, there's what we call life. Know what I mean? And the basic rule of life is to survive until you are nearing death, like me. I'm 67, and our life shifts from being able to cope, meeting my what I call economic and security needs, and then being with other people. I live alone. I've been living alone in this small apartment. And I am still in need of someone whom I could share my life with. My daughter has her own family. And I can do this. I can share, and that's what life is all about. It's just like you plant a seed, you take care of it, it grows into a tree, it bears fruits, and the fruits will have seeds that can be replanted. That's what I think life is about. So I am born. I went through life with different levels, focusing on the taking stage to make myself independent. I graduate. I have my own job. I look for someone to be a partner with. I messed up in a lot of ways. That's why I'm still not, not economically stable. But I was able to attain a certain degree of independence, being able to live by myself and understand that the purpose of my life is to leave behind something like this. That's why I'm recording this. And I've had a lot of thoughts in my life. But, I am a talker. And I cannot just post this kind of broadcast on Facebook, but I can upload it in YouTube. And hopefully, I could come up with small ideas like what people are doing, creating reels, not for the purpose of making money, but for the purpose of highlighting a thought. Today, I guess, my talk is about coping. Right now, I'm trying to cope being alone. All right? So my coping mechanism comes with talking with people, having a teaching job, because that's where my talking capability gets to be used. And creating videos like this make me talk and express. The problem is, I could not just talk about this to all people, because not all people are ready to listen. That's another thing. But what I'd like to highlight is that in my case of coping, many times I go down to a level where, just to be with people, I call customer service, I try to express my views, make people realize, or make the customer service agents realize that what they're doing is not just a job, but to serve, the customers. That's basically what they need to do. In a call center, you have to understand what the customers want. What's the reason for the call? Secondly, try to see if you can address that. If you can't, then you have to be skillful enough not to aggravate the call. It's basically like that. I worked for 12 years in the call center setting, and that's pretty much it. Although during the time, I was really a mess because I coped by meeting the metric later on. I got, it felt good when, you, you gain uh, acknowledgement of people, of my team leader, and be a part of the success of the team. But the success of the team is not what life is all about. Because if you fail, and that's what life is all about, the negative impact on the people you are with gets to be affected. That's why there's a saying, people are with, I don't know if that's a saying, but I remember when you're successful, people are with you. When you are a failure or a loser, people shy away from you. And coping is being able to deal with that loneliness without going into what I call in the youth encounter, the retreat I facilitated before, escape mechanisms. To free me from loneliness, to free me from all the paralysis, quote unquote, that we have, paralysis that make you feel lonely, sad, angry, disabled, disappointed. You will need to have some crutches. And the crutch is what we call the skate. It enables you to stand and to walk, but you could not walk on your own 2 feet. And many of us are paralyzed, but we can still walk, right? We can still walk because we have crutches. Problem is, some people don't like to walk anymore, even if there are crutches. Some people will be needed to be carried through wheelchairs, through hammocks, through whatever carrying mechanism they need to be carried on. And that's still coping, but alone, you could not cope. You could not live by yourself. And again, that's part of life. There comes a point in time when you will just need others to take care of you. And actually, I dread that part because I feel I need to write a book to leave something behind. And that's what life is all about. Plant a seed, grow a tree, have it bear fruits, plant those seeds, and then you have a farm, an orchard, or whatever. Just making sure that the tree you're planting are good for others. Because there are certain seeds, there are certain trees, there are certain fruits that are harmful to life. But again, that's life, what life is all about. You cannot have the fruits without having the roots. The roots are taking nutrients from the soil, while the fruits actually give out more life. And that's the duality of life. I am an animal, I have reason, but more than my body and my mind, I have my spirit, which is symbolized by the heart. So, coping with life is basically being able to have that excitement in life because there's something that you want to share, and when you share it, it goes back to you just like a seed. You're a farmer, you plant seeds in different soils, but sometimes some seeds just die out because the soil is not fertile. if you know what I mean. I have a lot to give. Some people have things to give: money, uh, material possessions, material things. But the best thing you can give is when you have it in you: beautiful voice, intelligent mind, being an artist. And if you find people loving it, then you get rewarded, and it goes on. And the best example I give on this in this particular generation is no other than Manny Pacquiao. Why? Well, Manny started from a very poor beginning, from this what I call rags to really riches. He barely had anything to be able to survive a day, but because of his gift, his boxing skills, he was able to make it to the top. And what is he now? He is not only rich and famous, he is still humble, and that makes him someone to be a model of, to be able to keep on giving, not because of the money, but because that's who you are. My grandson, a 9-year-old kid, Matthew, asked me once, "Lo, what is the purpose of life?" And I answered him, "To be what you ought to be." And I asked him, "What do you want to be?" And he said he wanted to be a teacher, right? A YouTube blogger. And I asked him, "Why do you want to be a teacher?" Because my parents are teachers. My daughter, his mother is a teacher, and his father is also a teacher. And I asked him, "Who else is a teacher?" And he said, "Nanay said you are teaching, so I am a teacher." And my wife, his grandmother, may she rest in peace, was also a teacher. So seems like it is within our DNA to be a teacher. My father is not a teacher as a job, but he taught me well. He taught me good. That's why I'm like this, and I owe it to him. So what I'm saying is, every one of us has this talent, and if we just focus on what we want to do, that gives us energy. That makes us cope, regardless of who you are, regardless of how much possession do you have, regardless of the problems you're trying to cope with, because that's actually what I call in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, deficiency needs. There will come a point in time when you can make decisions of your own, like me, I'm already retired. I don't have savings, all right? I was able to cope with pension before, like during the pandemic. I just cope with my pension, which is not much. But then again, if you have adjusted yourself with the kind of life you have, all you need to do is find out what else will make you feel better, give you the energy, and that can only be had if you connect with others. Think about it. Right now, I don't have any connection at the moment, so I'll have to go out of my way to call some friends, which may not be around. Maybe invite them here, maybe have some drink, food, and some sort of, bonding video, okay, and the like. But there's no family. There's no one that, you would enjoy life every day. That's family. You wake up in the morning, you have your family, they're always there. even if you don't, bond together. But when I say bonding, it's something that comes regularly, like going to school, going to work. In my case, I just have to find it out. And if I have the means in which I'm going to work on, I'd rather have a small place like, what some people are doing. They select a place, they meet regularly, do Bible study. In my case, that's what I want. Some sort of a cafe or a restaurant where a certain area could be free, but I could just do my thing, invite friends, talk, maybe sing. That's an idea. But then, if it grows, then it becomes a culture. I imagine you meet there, you enjoy each other, and then that's my place. So I get to decide what's gonna take place. I have to set some rules so that not anyone could just come. There's a need for certain set of rules to be able to create a set of values within the system. And when we talk of coping with corruption, it's another part of what you call 911 coping. Yeah, the coping with the kind of character our government has. My solution is simple: take a plant which is good and then transplant it. Get the seeds and transplant it. My my idea is get a model government, and I think Vico Soto has at least proven himself to have that kind of image. He has proven himself to have done something for Pasig, being transparent and not getting more taxes from the people. If it can be done in Pasig, why can't it be done in communities, in barangays? Thing is, in our culture, we have gotten used to, being on his own. Like, we have gotten used to the kind of authoritarianism, the kind of submissiveness we had during the Spanish time in the Philippines. Then we gained a certain degree of freedom during American times. Unfortunately, when we got independent, we were still dependent on America. And those who became the government officials in the Philippines, I'm not saying they are like this. There were a lot of them who did good things in the Philippines. But you cannot just make people realize that when you're a leader, you have to lead with compassion, with service, not slavery, with responsibility. Of course, you have to take care of yourself, but if you enrich yourself from the taxes of the people, that's not right. I even have reservations on, what we so-called religious leaders who get rich because of the church. Of course, that's another thing. It's part of growth. When you build a church, you have also to build things that could impress upon people to make them follow you. But speaking of religion, coping with, submissiveness and being able to empower yourself, I think Jesus Christ showed the example. He built church made of people, not churches made of stones and cement and steel. He built churches based on the heart, so that heart made people evangelize, tell people that there's something greater than the material world we have in. I'm not saying you disregard it, no. You cope with it. I have money, at least for myself. I can still cope. Sometimes I borrow. I'm not rich. And I do help my friends. But there are some people who would ask money from me. But I could not just give them everything because it doesn't come back. Unlike the love of Jesus, the love of God, they say it's overflowing because it is just giving. I remember a line from the film Ratatouille, because Ratatouille is a cartoon where a rat can cook by trying to control the movements of a human being. And so they were having this kind of argument with his co-rats. And the dad would say, "We are rats. We do not cook." Something like, rats take, humans kill. But then again, that rat in Ratatouille said, I'm not just there for the taking. I want to give. And again, there's a very simple thought. We are born children. We cannot cope by ourselves. We need to take. We grow to become adolescents. We start giving so that we could, establish connections. Until we reach a stage where you're about to die, like me. I'm not dying, but I'm in a stage where, death is near. We cannot prevent that. It's not terrible to think about it because people ought to prepare themselves for that. And they say death comes like a thief in the night. But what we need to do is leave something behind. Just like, right now we have the cloud where your data are stored in. And I don't know if you believe this. There's something where our spiritual makeup, all the experiences we have, our values, whatever it is, are just put in that storage, waiting for it to be recaptured and reset life. But of course, that's something that's already beyond what I'm talking about. To simplify, to cope with life, all you have to do is find your passion. Do it. But what's more important is that we hope that that kind of passion will give you that energy. To me, that's personal. In hierarchy of needs, it's not only being with people, but being with people that makes you feel good about yourself. And not because only people say you are good along that line, since what you may be doing is just to, do what the people want, even if what they want is not what you really want. Like a high school musical, the basketball player who is well known to become who is already well known as a good basketball player, until he discovers he could sing. He's a good singer. But in the film, it shows that it only happens when you meet someone you love and who shares the same passion. That someone he fell in love with also was known for something else. So you have a basketball captain, and then you have a nerd, both of which are good in singing. If others discover that they are pursuing their passion, what I call self-actualization in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they might lose the recognition. But that's what life is all about. When you have passed through that recognition, you could pursue your dream and then pass it on, empower people. And that's what High School Musical was about. Because they were able to pursue their passion, they did not just live in accordance with the status quo. They they pursued being a singer, and then later on, others pursued what they really want. Like one is wants to dance, the other one wants to bake, you know, and it frees people. It gives them a certain kind of freedom to be who they really are. And that's what life is all about. Unfortunately, people nowadays only recognize those who have the money, because it's easy to see things with the naked eye than seeing with the heart. That's why my one of my favorite quotes, it comes from The Little Prince. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. You know, I started with coping, and I ended up talking with a lot of things. And this is because this is naturally me. I have a lot of things to share. But what I need to do right now is not only to share, but to empower. It becomes so lonely. Not really lonely, but you feel alone because you're the only one who has this. If I could find someone who could be somehow having the same frequency that I have, it would have been better. And it would be best if that person, is someone who you could be a family with, right? Everyone needs to find his, what you call, a soulmate. Like Adam has Eve. Positive has a negative. The magnet has north and south. Everything has a partner. But without a partner, you could still be whole until you find someone who completes you. So when that is still not present, all we need to do is cope, but not escape. Coping is different from escaping, right? You have crutches. It makes you walk until such time that your feet gain strength and you can walk alone. But you need to pursue that. You need to practice walking on your feet and not relying on the crutches. It's worst if people will put you on a wheelchair, because being in a wheelchair, you're no longer free. People will take you wherever you want. But sometimes where you want to go is something that they don't want to take you to. That's sad. Well, I guess I did a lot of good in today's video. If this was broadcast, it would have been good. But I'm just going to record it, put it in YouTube, and then see if it brings about something. All right? So basically, that's all for now. It is 8:55 in the morning. This is SIRCAT, and I'm going to put this video in YouTube. All right. Hope you find it good and share it if you find it good. Thank you.